Welcome, everyone. I'm very excited. As Navo said, we're going to focus a lot on a few new things we released. The first one would be the composition tool, which I'll pop up and share my screen in a second. But it's a way to use a reference image for not just style, like you might be used to, but other things such as the character pose of someone or the depth of an image. Also, we just like this morning, I think, released a video to audio feature, which I think is a pretty incredible job of pulling out the expected audio from a video clip. So if there's a truck driving, you'll get a truck sound. And we'll show you a few things about, its initial use cases and also its initial limitations, but I found it to be really accurate. So that's a fun one. So I'll start by sharing my screen. As Navo said, if you have any questions, just drop them in the Q&A below. And let me adjust this bar so I can see what's going on still. Okay, cool. So we're going to start with a new project. Again, if you aren't familiar, the initiation screen changed a little bit ago, but you can drop in your script here, develop the concept with AI. And even though it's after the holidays, I guess still stuck in that mode. So I'm going to do a little holiday story, a very simple one, just so that we can explore some concepts together. So I'll start with a story of, Santa wakes up late on Christmas to discover he slept in. He has a series of issues during his, let's say, morning commute, but finally gets to deliver all his presents on time before the end of the day. So something really simple. I just wanted a kind of a canvas so we can explore on some stuff together. I'm not going to add any special requests or anything. I'm just going to do a short film here and then we'll get started. So with this, once we let this project load, again, you're going to see the initial storyline concepts. I'll pick one of them. I'm not going to be too picky here. I just am using this project today as a demo. Last week, if you watched number 4, you'll see us take a specific vision from scratch, which is our dinosaur film, which was pretty fun. But here we see Santa wakes up in a panic, realizing he's overslept for the first time in centuries. Great detail. I love that. So they all scramble to get ready. He discovers his sleigh's is stuck in the snow. Honestly, it's so cold in Chicago today. My beard literally froze, so this is hitting home for me. Um, After an exhausting effort, he finally gets free. Perfect. Okay, so this is what he encounters a flock of geese. This gives me a lot of things to work with because I just want to show some fun uses of like imagery that we want to pull in. So I'm going to go ahead and click the settings and cast. I'm not going to be too picky on style here since we're going to change, we're going to focus on like the scene composition really. But we have here, perfect, Frosty, Rudolph, Santa Claus. Maybe add a mischievous elf later or something. And Santa's last minute dash, perfect. I'll let these load, see what we're working with. Cool. It's a bit more of like an animation type style, but I'm not too worried about that. A lot of Christmas and holiday films are. If I wanted to go more like classic cinematic, I could push that a little bit, but I'm just going to initiate the project so we can get going.
And by the way, you said you mentioned our latest session, the fourth session. Everything, I just want to remind everyone that everything is on YouTube. We record these, so you can go back and see them. And we also just updated some of the tutorials. We have short tutorials on YouTube, so make sure you're subscribed. And also, everything is posted and shared, and all of the new updates for features and anything that we do is shared on our Discord. So if you're here with us on the webinar, I'll just paste our Discord's link. And if you're watching this recording on YouTube, then you'll have it down at the description.
Yeah. There's some real gold in that Discord channel, so definitely check that out. And yeah, the YouTube ones have been getting a lot of views, so feel free to jump in for anything you missed. You can skip around to different sections, and those have been really fun to do. So, all right, jumping in here. While these are loading the initial previews, it looks like it's got what I want in terms of the waking up scene, the sleigh trouble. Looks like it understood everything I was going for, which was perfect. And then yeah, we go towards the ending. Great. So let's say that I created this and then I realized that before this even started, maybe I wanted like a dream scene or something more surreal, different style or kind of, not so anchored into this reality. So I go to create a new scene. Most people are familiar, you can input the parameters here for like the shot, and you might say something like, okay, Santa running through a hall of endless tunnels, like something really dreamy. So you can use text to get your prompt. We've also talked in the past about the composition tool, but that's where I want to focus a little bit of a lot of the beginning on because a lot has changed there. So as a reminder, you can start with a prompt upload or the composition tool. And if you have something really specific, I think composition tool is a way to go. So for example, this is close, but I want like a series of tunnels. So I'm going to go composition. I could scribble that. But what I want to call your attention to is the new image reference thing. So I can't see, Nevo, if you can see it popped open like an upload window. I'm not sure if you only see Zoom, but I'm going to select an image. Let's see, hallways. I'm going to select this image. It's just something for a free license one I got on Splash. And so here, if you notice, you can choose what you're pulling out of this. Actually, and Nevo, maybe before we even jump into the results, maybe if you want to give an explanation of the what's behind all this.
Yeah, sure. So actually, each one represents a different way to analyze images. So it's very classic image processing tools that we use in algorithms. Depth gets you, as it says, the depth. So it creates some sort of like a 3D environment where it catches and understands what is farther away in the image and what is closer to you, including very specific details. So in this example of this small icon over here, it would also recognize that the binoculars that this woman is holding are closer to the camera, and then the mountains are very far away. Lines, we actually called it Canny and changed it to lines, but Canny is the algorithm behind. It's a very classical computer science algorithm named after Kenny. This algorithm does sort of edge detection. So as you can see in the icon, what's going on is that every separation between a character or an object or anything else is detected by the edges, and then the algorithm returns the edges. So it doesn't really understand kind of like the depth of things, but it understands how to take the different objects and distinguish between them. So this is a way to use like objects orientations and stuff like that. And I'm only mentioning it because I think it's very interesting to understand what's behind those things. But also Corbett will in a second show you best practices to any of them, to all of them. With pose, it detects the position of a character of a person that's in the image. So it makes like a skeleton guy out of them. And then it understands the position of each and every part of the body. And colors kind of detects color blocks out of the image. And Corbett will also talk about why it's helpful, but it kind of makes the image to the computer make blocks of colors for all of the image itself, and then it's able to process and change things in it. So this is kind of the back end.
Yeah, and a lot of people might not realize when they're uploading image that these things are here. I do think depth is a pretty good default. It gets really good results by default, but we'll show some specific examples of why you might want pose, for example, like ignoring the rest of something but just pulling in a person's pose. But to start, let's just say again, Santa running through a series of endless hallways. And so now with the reference image here and our prompt down below, again, you can see these images of shot location and shot style. We can still click those to edit. And here, when you're generating the fast preview, you can regenerate it, and then you can also enhance here. So what I do is I typically, I actually like the last one better, so I might undo it or just keep generating new seeds. But what I typically might do is actually I'm going to go back because the first one was kind of what I was looking for. So I'm going to go back, use up the top right, you have the reset and forward and back arrows. This is kind of what I wanted. But again, you can also use further tools to mask or restore this image. So maybe I wanted, something further along. I might just do this and make him further down the hallway or up closer. If I draw him bigger, it should be closer. But I'm going to use this tool in with more accuracy in one of the other modes, so I can show you. I usually don't use it as much with this depth setting on a background image. But basically, we'll get to the masking one later. So going back, this was actually kind of what I was looking for. But we can also keep adding the seed prompt here if you want to get something different. So I could say like brick hallways, you can keep changing the prompt. You can use the mask and restore tools here and regenerating the seed image. But once you get what you want, I could say, let's say do one more thing. I'll say snowy. Um, I can't type when there's any audience I can't type. So endless snowy hallways, perfect. That's what I was looking for. And so I'll click apply, and that way, oh, I forgot to hit enhance. I'd enhance this first, click apply, and it should give me a good result of my, dream sequence I wanted before he wakes up to his alarm clock. Next, throughout the process, I'm going to click a few more. I'm going to show you a few more composition tools, and what I would use it for. So let me delete this one because I like the new one better. And let's say that after I might create a few more things here, like I don't know, uh, like tunnel vision of swirling alarm clocks or something. That's pretty wild. I'm going to do pretty surreal prompts, but I might not get what I want, so I might need to pull something in. But either way, let's say I'm creating my dream sequence up here, and I might use a mixture of prompting and composition. Let's just say tunnel vision of swirling colors, something more dreamy. But once I go down, I'm going to show you in the next scene a use of a different type of the composition tool. So I'm going to grab a few more examples. So perfect. I'll say red and green. There. So I'll let that load. Let's say that in the alarm clock, I want him to like hold up at the end of the dream like a let's see. I'll do it for the prompt first so you can see what I'm talking about. So let's say Santa um, holds up a snow globe alarm clock and get a default prompt here. So I'm just trying to parallel what you get by default prompting at your first try, kind of zero shot there, versus if you have a specific vision. So kind of cool, but what I was really looking for is just a picture of with Santa not in it. So what I might do here is instead, I'm going to show a parallel example. Click composition and then upload an image, and I'll do this. So here I have a glass ball, which is kind of what I was hoping for. And I can say again, same kind of prompt, Santa holding up a flat a snow globe alarm clock. And here on the right, we're gonna get that quick preview. So as that loads, kind of what I was going for, but I'm gonna keep regenerating and trying different combinations um, of prompts here, and just to see what I can get. And then this can help me get towards what I'm looking. So that's kind of what I wanted actually. Maybe a little bit of snow in there, but this is actually pretty close to what I wanted. And maybe you could try something. I like this, but I'm going to try a few more that says 9:05, and maybe it'll turn it digital or something.
By the way, Corbett, you are using the word Santa, which is a very famous character, so you don't really have to. But if you have built a character on casting, you can actually mention it like you do for the prompt. So you could have used the hashtag, like the mention symbol, Santa. So for every character, it also works in composition, which is um, crazy. It's very powerful, really. It's
Yeah.
surprisingly useful as well.
That's a great point. I forgot to call out, I was using Santa by default, but you can have the character here. So for example, I don't know if Rudolph, I don't know how to have a reindeer holding a snow globe. This is a dream though. But that's a great point. You can still call. That's funny. I like that. I'm gonna go back to the one before though, because I actually really liked that, that's kind of what I wanted, this one, or this one. But anyway, so you can keep playing around with it to get your specific vision. But more so, if you can see the point of like maybe I play around with the strength of it. Maybe it doesn't have to be so perfect. So here we're getting like more or less, rigid to the hand. So when the strength is higher, for example, the hand is more like a woman's hand in more clear detail. And when it's lower, it's different. So you can keep playing around with a bunch of these things. And remember, you can try a few different things in this, but you can, but for this kind of thing, I'd normally use depth. But anyways, let's say we have, I can keep playing around with that, but if we have our scene of someone holding the snow globe with the time inside, one thing I'd call out is that you might notice even with something kind of complicated like putting text inside the snow globe, we were able to get 905 inside the snow globe. In December, we had updated the preview image to be a version of Flux Pro, much better with text. So if you haven't used that for like a commercial use or whatever, give that a shot. It's really fun. It's a good way of generating text, and I found it to be so effective. Whereas before, you might have found it really hard to generate text, and this way, it's really reliable even with complicated things. Finally, I'm going to show one more thing. So let's say that I want a one more thing where it's like let's say Santa sitting on a bunch of presents. So I might do a prompt, Santa sitting on a pile of presents, and let's see what it gives me by default. And I'll compare that with an image I had in mind, a certain pose. So here we have kind of the default from text. And actually, I'll just parallel process this and upload the other one while that's going. I'm going to upload an image here, and I'll do this person kind of sitting on a rock throne, this man on kind of this like pile of rocks. But here, obviously, I don't want the colors because that's not really in line with my kind of holiday Christmas theme. But maybe I want the pose of the person, or all the lines of an image. So let's just take the pose to start. I can say Santa sitting on a pile of presents. And then again, I could tag the character here, Santa Claus. Perfect. So if you can see here, I'm grabbing the pose of the image, and I've gotten just really a pose here, and you can regenerate a few ones, but you can also play around with the lines of the image. So if you want to keep most everything, I can play around with the lines here too. However, note that what the character's wearing and stuff, like there are some lines here that won't make sense, and that way I might want to just keep the pose. Yeah, notice the lines, if you become kind of more aware of it, but he's kind of wearing like this almost like superhero suit, with these lines etched in, and Santa doesn't really look like that. So it's a good example of if you want to just keep the pose, but the rest aren't relevant, that's what you can do. And then I'll show one more with um, a, an example just using the colors. Novo, have you
I lo-
found use cases that you really like for the mixture of the different composition tools?
Yeah, I have to say, I'm kind of like a cinema fanatic. I love old films and I love referencing films. We're not really allowed to use anything, so I'm not able to
Yeah.
share any examples because everything is kind of copyright ridden. But I have done a trip to the moon by it's like a classic film from a French film from 1902,
Hmm.
which is Crazy by Georges Méliès. And this is actually free to use.
I
And
would say it's past
there's
the copyright limit. Yeah.
and then yeah, and then I took the image of this moon that was hit by this missile, and I just kind of altered. I used the composition to just tell another story, and I really really like the fact that you can just reference some of your favorite
Yeah.
works from cinema, art, um, photography. So I've been using that a lot for that. I love that.
Yeah, I should put a bounty out there and say for anything in the public domain, which is brand safe to use, if someone wants to use this and recreate their favorite short film or something like that, that could be really fun. But so I'll show
Yeah.
the last thing here. So let's say I want kind of an interstitial scene, Santa's on his sleigh, but maybe I want to zoom out and just show kind of a not really an establishing shot, but just an interstitial showing some progress across like this frozen tundra. So again, I'll show two different examples. So I'll say kind of a wide shot, uh, Santa riding across a frozen expanse in his sleigh. Oops, sleigh. So we're just gonna trying to get a different view on things. I might go between establishing shot and a wide shot here, just to zoom out, get a different perspective. Kind of what I wanted, but here's an example. Again, a composition tool. maybe you have something particular in mind. And so I'll do one more. So, and again, let's start with just what you'd get from the default thing here and put it in the bottom. And then we'll do one more. So we'll do like a frozen tundra expanse like this. And I'll show a few things. So remember, I didn't show this yet, but you can use this to zoom in and out. You can rotate, yeah, you zoom in and out to get what you're really looking for from this image. So again, I'm going to zoom this in so I can cover up the screen. And here I put the text here. But as I mentioned before, sometimes you might want to use the the tools to mask or override an imagery. So I might say Santa riding across a frozen expanse in a sleigh along a long highway, and I might use this to like draw where that is. So I might go like this and draw in the path itself. So something you can play around with. You can also, I'll just take it back and start from scratch. So for example, I might grab all of this and just say a highway in the along a frozen expanse of tundra. And so you can play around with it to get what you want, but you can use this tool to kind of mask an image. So, and you can, again, make it more or less to the image itself using these tools. But that way, use a combination of these things. And you might even put uh, with Santa flying up top in his sleigh. So you might even put something like this and use that to again, like kind of direct your composition. This is something you'll need to play around with. But if you mess up, like that didn't quite get it there, and if you realize you want to go backwards, you can use this tool here and restore the image. So I can use this tool here and restore like this if you messed up something. But I found it to be pretty useful. Honestly, it's something you got to play around with, but I've used it a lot to get something more specific out of it. And you can
I
also
think,
remember, or go ahead, no,
by the
go.
way, for here, you probably would want to change the
Oh,
depth
sorry. I
analysis
forgot I didn't even oh
to
my
the
gosh.
lines or
I forgot
colors.
I was in
Yeah.
the wrong setting. Good point. I wanted the, here we go. That's why it's working. Thank you so much. I wanted the color setting. That's what I meant to show is that I wanted the colors from this. Thank you, Nevo. That was the reason behind it. And here, for example, I might put the mask up here. But here you can see it's just pulling in the colors, and then I've masked the image where it's not pulling in that. So let's see, flying up, flying in his sleigh. Um, so again, if it's not really showing what you want, you can use that restore tool to fix it. So again, here, it's not really what I want there, but it's getting the highway that I wanted down here. And so maybe I'll just say Santa driving along a highway. Um, Cool. So again, here we're just pulling out the colors. That's why it was not working before because it was trying to pull the depth of it. But here we have the Santa going along my specified highway, and I use the masking tool here to kind of pull out the image. So it's pulling the colors basically except from this. So that way, you can remove the colors from a certain image with this tool, or again, use the restore one. This can also work if you want to take again. So green isn't in here, but now I said green is the highway. So you can see I masked the colors there. But let's go back to one more thing, just to
By
show
the
an example.
way,
Yep.
if I can give another small trick for using
Yep.
colors, why would you want to use them? Use this particular way of analysis. So for example, because we talked about the algorithm behind being like a color block algorithm that kind of divides all of the details in the images to big color blocks, then if we have a character or an object that is kind of has the same color palette, then you can alter the entire object or the animal or whatever that is to another specific character. For instance, you can change a dog into a cat. And these things work really well with color, I feel. So this is another kind of I'm kind of happy that we had this mistake because it kind of shows the difference between the different analysis types. So yeah.
That's a good point. And I'm going back to this one example, and I didn't take care here, but just an example. Again, I can remove the mask on a certain thing. Like if the hand was showing, I put this, it was too strong here, but if the hand was showing too much like the woman's hand and not Santa's hand, you can mask that and play around with that. So I wanted
Mm.
to go back there to show a few different examples. So I can mask everything. Like maybe, for example, see, the more I mask, the looser it is, the more it changes. So again, if we want the woman's hand showing, I would go like this, click restore, and I'm going to restore all of this. And then it'll be the woman's hand showing more strongly here. So use that to cut out anything from the image. So again, I'll do one more time and I want it more like Santa-ish. So I'll make room for like a glove or something more Santa-ish. And then I'm gonna make the image strength appropriate. But that way, it's got a more of a chance to be what I want. And that's not really there. So I might, make the image strength more loose so it can play around with it. Because if it's kind of misfiring, it's probably because you're forcing it too hard to something it's not. But here, there we go. But one last thing I wanted to point out. Uh, Naveau talked about this in the last one, which is on YouTube, but something we released recently was the face expressions thing, and that can come in handy here because Santa looks too happy. So let me show a few examples of like using the face expressions to drive what you want. So, oh, sorry, going back to Santa's project, let's just say I'm just going to do a close up of well, I guess you could do it this way, face expressions. So this one, I just left. I could actually change that and make that a alarm clock again. That doesn't tell me much time. It just tells me it's Christmas, I guess. But here, Santa looks too happy. Like he should be surprised, probably. So he's still a little too happy. So maybe we make him angry, One thing I found though, by the way, is beard does mess up the expression. So let me show you an example. If you're struggling with that, let me go down here and show one more thing. Let's just say he's in someone's home and say I'll just say a kid walks in, a young kid walks in the room and sees Santa. So I've noticed if like Santa Claus in particular has like a lot of facial hair compared to normal characters. So that actually does make it more difficult to get the exact one you want. You have to play around with the little settings and I'll do that above. But let's just do a walks in the room and I'll do a close up so I can get a shot of their face. But by default, a lot of the characters' expressions will be more neutral, and face expression is a really great way of getting exactly what you want. Let's see, a close up of a young kid. Let me refresh that there, and that way, you can really tweak to get the desired expressions you want from a scene. So, for example, here, I don't know, he'd probably be more surprised, right? So let's go to face expressions, and then here, yeah, sorry, the young kid here would be more surprised. So let's do this. Um, there you go. So like, or play around with other expressions, but angry. And then I think I'd be happy if I saw Santa, but just more surprised. So, but here on the side, you can play around with those expressions. So if you look here, you've got your custom controls around like lips, head, etc. Head position, maybe they're looking down at the chimney or something. Maybe we have the expression. I'll just play around with a few different ones. Frowning, maybe they're upset because they got coal. So now they're sad. They got like coal as a gift or something. But here you can go through all of these expressions and go pretty detailed, exactly what you want from eyes like open, closed, and blinking. So for example, um, but again, if you're so now I've got eyes open, eyes closed. So I would play around with some of these defaults here, like angry, laughing, smiling, and then use, I love that one actually, it's really cute. So start with a template often and then just like tweak the ones here, but you can get quite detailed on all of these. And we'll go back to our Santa and make him a little bit more angry, but I'll show you the more difficulties with this. So let's do it one more time. Face expressions. So this is on expert mode since he's got all that facial hair. Also, he's kind of blurry, if you notice. That's not going to help. But we'll do scared maybe. But he's still kind of smiling by default. So I'll go here. And this is a little harder because of his big beard. But we're going to go tighter lip tension, frowning a little more. And we're gonna go maybe here, and then have them look down a little bit. Um, and again, you can change the orientation of the head, But yeah, I think with Santa in, so now he's a little bit more focused. So he's not exactly smiling. So we've got a little bit more out of that. He's kind of like staring, like trying to read this. So that's a start, but then you can keep playing around with all these settings, eyes, mouth, eyebrows, etc. So we're gonna have him even a little lower. Um, and he's more like consternated there, like looking at the alarm clock in more detail. So we've definitely improved that. So for example, he's at least staring at it in more detail. And again, you can combine these. I can remove objects. I can, like I said, if I wanted to play around with these things, you can keep playing around with it. Um, and here, I could add in, for example, uh, clock. So keep playing around with it. Um, I might actually put like a digital clock showing 9:05, etc. You'll have to get more detailed. But you can keep experimenting. This will probably look really weird. I didn't really try there. But yeah, so I think the TLDR, like coming through all this, is that with the mixture of, composition, face expression, we're getting more fine-grained control to people to let them bring their vision to life. And you can use a library, be conscious of if you have the rights to it, where this is for demo purposes only, but you can go to sites to get or licensed images that you're okay to use, that are free to use, and then you can use them as inspiration for what you're doing. Um,
You can actually, I think, use it like we're not legal people, so we won't give you any legal advice, but you can actually use composition and references. Like the biggest filmmakers in the world do that as well.
Fair.
Recreating some scenes and stuff like that. So definitely you can use inspirations and stuff like that. I would even encourage that. I think it's magical when people do
Yeah.
that.
I'll show an example just so that our legal team doesn't kill us in this one. But an example would be you want to avoid things that, you don't want to you can use a scene as inspiration, but you don't want to like recreate Barbie with all the colors and all the shots. Like
Oh no, not at
yeah,
all.
no, I know. You don't want to like recreate something that's copyrighted or licensed, but you can think of a scene in your mind and try to recreate it based on references. Again, you want to put your own creative spin on it. Like a good example we talked about, some of these old things. I think like Mickey Mouse. Or no, what's the some of the old like things that like 100 years old are now in the public domain. So you can take old inspiration of a scene that you saw where you liked the motion of the character's position or the framing of it, and use that as inspiration, but recreating something more in the current domain would be prohibited. We have full, and you can see the terms of use on the site. We are not lawyers, but that's a good like rough
Yeah.
benchmark there.
And we do have our first question, which is
Sure.
very exciting. Everyone's welcome to ask them. It's in the Q&A section below. Danilo is asking about the regenerates if it costs credit. So yeah, the way that we kind of charge our plan is by computing time. So everything that needs to be generated would cost you some time. I do want to mention that our developers and developers team is amazing and is always trying to make things more efficient. Then all of those regenerates would cost you money, but it would be pretty efficient and wouldn't cost you a lot. But yeah, keep that in mind. And this is actually why it's important for us to also do these sessions here and show you kind of like the best use cases and best cases so you could experiment just for some of the time and not and wouldn't do all of it just from scratch. So hopefully this will also help you not do a lot of regenerations.
Yeah, that's a great point, and I want to show something else too. We didn't touch on this yet, but it's a major release as of today. So you might have noticed the Auto FX here. So let me zoom in so you can see that. This you can turn on. You will, speaking of regenerating, you will have to regenerate, I believe, or you must generate motion first and then turn it on. Sorry. So there's a little tooltip there because this is brand new. Right now, currently, it doesn't work in concert with the XF library. I think you have to pick one, for example. And if I remember correctly, the soundtrack probably won't play at the same time as that too. But it's brand new, so obviously just starting to get out there. But I'll show you a few examples. So let's start with something simple like let's say here I'll say prompt crackling fireplace. So here, if you generate a shot that you want, And probably this, let's say it's an alarm clock, so we'll do this for this one. I'll turn Auto FX on for there. And here I'll turn it on for, I'll generate motion, and then I'm going to turn it on for here. So this is basically meant to interpret the video and then play what the expected sound would be. So here we'd expect the sound to be like an alarm clock, although it is a very weird alarm clock. And then here a fireplace. In general, and also let me see, I'm not sure if I shared with sound. So I might need to reshare again. Let
Let's
me just
try,
double,
yeah.
yeah.
I
Let me look down here and see if I can. Either way, I'll play this first. I'll tell you if I hear it. Nevo, let me know if you hear it. So
sure.
as these are generating, and I'll do one more. I'm gonna do like a truck driving just to get some like difference um in prompts here. So truck driving down a snowy way here, and then let that generate into here. I'm just trying to get a variety of things here for you. But honestly, in my experience so far, I was playing around with this and I made an initial scene and turned it on for each of them. And it got, I think I made a scene with 7 shots and it got it each time. So it was pretty accurate for me when I was playing around with it when it first released. So again, and you might notice here also one last note, the difference here in terms of why these are longer, these are shorter, these boxes. It's just we generate these from composition. And so it's a shorter like box window for the UX, but you can still do Auto FX even when you do composition. So here, can you hear that, Nevo?
No.
No? Okay, let me
No.
reshare that. So let me just share again. And then yep, share sound. Okay, cool. I'm gonna optimize for video sharing too. Or I'll turn that off. Cool. So resharing. Okay. How about you hear that?
Yeah.
Cool. Nice warm fire. You feeling warmer?
Mm, I am, I
There
am.
you go. So, and here it got the alarm clock, but it was the kind of, we have an analog one, so it's like a twisting alarm clock. I'll play this one again. Oh, wait, let me restart it. There you go. So got my kind of twisting alarm clock, and then I'll do all of these. Why not? And let's see what it does for something random like this one. Let's turn this one on. And then I'll do for all of them actually. So, um, generating these. And that's why I want to bring it up. Speaking of the regenerating, this is really efficient though. I think one thing we did actually mindful of the team of the community here is that you might remember here you could generate all. We noticed that wasn't a very efficient use of people's compute time. And so people were running through compute, but I think honestly, people who are more deliberate had a better experience. So we're testing that. So you might notice the generate all is gone from this part here. But one thing I should call out as well, it's not shown immediately, but remember up here you can generate a scene. So if I click this, it's going to generate the scene here, not the full project. So generate, what I would do is generate the shots in a scene, and then I preview the scene this way. Because honestly, when I'm building a project, I kind of only wanted to see it all together and then animatic towards the end. Usually I'm kind of working scene by scene. And so if you want to preview it, click that as a efficient way of just previewing this scene so it's not loading everything. It's gonna be much faster for you. And right now you do have to generate things one by one versus generating them all here as you have been used to. But so let's check out the running tool. So we got the running in the snow. I don't even know what this one will be.
Oh yeah.
That's all right, honestly. And then here, let's see an alarm clock. That's great.
Okay,
So let me
this
actually
was the weird one.
let's play around with this though. Like, it's kind of fun. Um here for example, the prompt and composition so motion prompt, I think I would just say Santa is alarmed to I'll say the alarm rings and Santa looks surprised. So remember, for all this, you can generate more motion previews. We built this in composition tool, but I didn't like it when I generated the motion. So you can remember, you can generate new motion previews, you can adjust things, you can use a combo of all these tools. But it often will interpret characters speaking, singing, whatever, depending on the action of that character. And so here I'm gonna like retry that. just because it wasn't giving me like the auto effects that I wanted. But also remember that you can go into the FX library, the sound effects library, and choose a sound more deliberately. So this is something I turn on for a scene because I found it really good. But maybe you want opening music for the first scene. You don't want the auto effects. But I found it should be like a handy way instead of searching through the library because you can take a while to find the right sound effect from your library. So remember, these are going to be just quick animated GIFs, but I can select one. But and you can do multiple. Again, I can generate a new batch here. But I'll just select. Let's see. Um, these all look a little. I actually kind of like that zoom in, so I'm gonna do that one. I love that. Don't turn that one off. But he's speaking in here, and so that's why it's like the auto effects is imagining that he's speaking. Um, but keep playing around with it, and here at least we got better motion. But I'm gonna turn off the auto effects, and here to get what I want, I'm gonna go back to storyboard. I'm gonna turn that off, and I'm just gonna do like alarm clock. So that's again, if you're not getting what you want, it works really well, but you can always get something like this. Oops, I want a different one. Like no, maybe. So these are all giving me like PTSD from waking up early. But so we'll just pick one. Here. These are funny. Um, there you go, the clatter. So I'll just pick something like that, but this way, like the auto effect, it tends to work really well. I've also noticed that if you have like the truck slowing down, the auto effects will slow down, which is pretty great. I tested that out. So it works most of the time, like 4 to 5 times. But if there's not a directed motion, like here, it's the boxes are moving, so it might have box jostling. But oh, I didn't turn it on. But if there's not a directed action, it's going to interpret it and it might miss. But I think 4 to 5 times it'll work for you.
And by the way, we had a good question from Bruno about if there's an option to regenerate the SFX, the sound effects that you want. So yes, there is. I just wanted to mention it. Inside the motion editor at the bottom left, you have the sound controls and you can change the seed. So like you do for an image where you change the seed and get something that still answers your prompt but is different, then also here it will interpret the shot and will decide on a similar but different kind of sound effect.
That's a really great point, Navo. It's funny when we ship products so fast. I actually didn't even know about that. So today I learned a new thing for myself. For since I was usually playing toggling on the auto generation, changing the motion design and switching between that and a library. So that's another great one. If you want to keep the
Yeah.
motion, if you like the motion, but you want to regenerate the seed, that's a great point. So, for example, clicking on that you can just keep iterating through the seed here. So that's a really good point. And so if you want to just regenerate that, there you go. So this is brand new. We'd love to have people play around with it and see what they're getting. I'm just gonna select that one. So we'd love to have people play around with it, see what they're experiencing, how it's going for them, and like report back. But honestly, I found it really helpful to get standard sounds for a whole host of things. And the only challenges I've had is when there is nothing like no real action directed from it. So that's where you might have more trouble. Um, but yeah, play around with it. Let us know what you think from that. Let's see. Is there anything else we should touch on? We have a little bit of time left. We went through a lot of stuff. I want to show one small thing. So let's say that I'm going to go back here and let's say, remember, this is a dream sequence and I want to change things, but let's say I want to keep this the same. I do want to call out that we have this lock shot thing. So we've changed a little bit of the UX here. Motion editor, regenerate, tools. But one thing I want to call out is in the tools, that's where you have your fill, remove. We added face expressions here. It's more utilities for the result itself. You can move, etc. But maybe you want to lock this shot if I'm making changes to things. So here I'm going to take the scene style. I'm going to drag an image. I'm going to go to my style references and I'm going to make something, crazy. Like here we've got much different style. This, I don't know if you can see, but just like some wacky colors. But maybe, for example, I wanted to keep that shot. Maybe it's going to be my like shot to end the dream sequence, get back to reality. So I'm going to move this over here. And so I'll have crazy colors. Then the portal, actually, let me move it even further. Then I'm going to have that portal, and then it's going to jump into the Santa world. So as you can see, though, you're getting like so many tools and abilities to bring your dream to life. Like you can really create any story you want. So again, here, I'm going to move to the edge. One second. But you can see here that now we have different colors and this kept the same. And again, I can play around with it. I can change the strength of those colors, and I've locked this shot here. So that way I can have a scene, have a transition, and I don't want to spoil things too much, but what I can say is that theme again is we're gonna give more control over kind of the mixing of your shots together so that we've given all these cool tools around the composition of getting that exact shot, but how they match together, that's an area of focus for us, and I know for the community.
Also, I want to take Edber's question about if I understood correctly, Edber, you're asking about doing collages where you paste something repeatedly and then try to interpret it differently, then the answer is absolutely yes, you can do that. If you go to the composition, then you can just paste, upload the images like Corbett showed. You can also edit them a bit, so you can just leave a face of someone. And I'm gonna replace your share screen one
Yeah.
second, Corbett, just real quick to show a nice example that someone from my team called Tom made. Like he
It's a
just pasted these monkeys
oh,
one
nice.
after the other and then created these totems. So you can absolutely do that and just
That's cool.
have fun with like collages. Yeah.
And Nouveau also, speaking of like using props and things, this was covered in the dinosaur example. But if you want to
Mm.
recreate something like that snow globe alarm clock more consistently, you can experiment with adding that as a character. We're going to include more natives
Okay.
here. But this was a tip that Nouveau you shared last time. So I'll say snow globe alarm clock. So yeah, Edward, going back to your example here. So I can say angry, I don't know, cartoon alarm clock, um, a snow, oops, a snow globe with an alarm clock inside that reads, or I'll say, you can keep playing around with that. I'm not going to go through the whole detail here, but this way, if you create something, we've seen people do this with like um, props and products and things for their shot. And so play around with it, but you will need to adjust the appearance, etc. But you can create a non-human character, and that way you can reference it like maybe my dream sequence, I want that alarm clock showing up and being a repeated between scenes. So here then we can have more consistency when we're calling that alarm clock into question. So I can say like here, prompts close up of alarm clock. And that way I'll just do like one of these close up. So here you can call a character into question. Remember, I have this like heavy style on this project. Um, so the style is going to, be changing the interpretation of that, but I'll remove it in a second. So let me just remove this so you can see. I do really like that style though, by the way. That's kind of cool for a dream sequence. But here you can have, your character called in here, and you can call it in the composition tool, as Nebo said earlier. So that way it's not 100% perfect, but it's a good way of getting a reasonable representation of a prop in between scenes.
Yeah, and I think that one answered Edber's question,
Yeah.
apparently.
So here, look into
Following
this.
up on the Q&A section.
Yeah, see if you see this snow globe alarm clock, that's exactly what I wanted. And going back to the cast and characters, it's exactly what is there. So honestly, really good. That's on the better end of what you'd get, but you can get pretty good in terms of what you're expecting or what you have from that character here. And you might mess up the finer details, but look, I mean, it's almost one for one, so we really got it. This might be a little more challenging, but we could say like holds up. This might be a little more challenging, but it nailed it for this one when it pulled it in from the characters and keep playing around with it to get what you want to keep them consistent in between shots. Not
Let's
quite.
see.
Yeah.
Um, I just, oh, did I answer the wrong person? Yeah, I did. I wanted to answer Patrick, who asked about the dialogue, character dialogue. So yes, you can use character dialogue. I'm also typing it under motion editor, motion character, then dialogue, and then you could just add lip sync with any text that you want. And Danilo is asking about adding a real person. So you can use inside the cast, under the character, you can change the face of a character. So then you can add a just an image reference for a living person, a real living person, or yourself.
I'm putting you as a friendly helper, but yeah, you can create a character. Um, you can create a character here. I'll just say an elf. An elf, and I'm gonna create this character. It's gonna fill in a lot of details for me. Um, and so, but here, what Devo is saying is the face switch. You, Devo, it says you're 150 years old.
Oh,
Pretty accurate.
that's me. Yeah, yeah. I have a lot
Note
of
that
experience.
yeah, what it's doing here, by the way, when enhancing things, it's feeding that. Getting, I didn't specify exactly what. I kind of wanted a cartoon one. Um, uh, but here I didn't even interpret here, so I could say, I don't want. I want to say, let's see, um, I'm just gonna put in something basic here, and I'm say, let's say, green jacket. Oops. Um, holiday festive, green jacket and hat. So anyways, you can change the different characteristics here, get it close to the character you want, but really that face switch is what you want to do to pull like someone's likeness onto that character. So use this. We're gonna make it easier to kind of pull in the characters you want. Nevo, you are much prettier than that, don't worry.
Oh, it's
But
okay.
you use that to get where you want, but then use the face switch to pull in. I've done that with more success on cinematic characters. Obviously, cartoon character is going to work a little harder, can still get there. Um, and lastly, remember that you can change the style kind of per scene or per shot, but use that and then do the face switch upload to get the character you want. The characters are definitely, as I mentioned, we're going to work on helping you kind of stitch together your ideas in a more effective way and also make it easier to get the right characters that you want. We know that the character consistency is something like here we have the snow globe alarm clock, the prop in between two shots, and that's hard to do with different softwares. But for here, the consistency is really important. So we're developing things here around like continuing to double down on our character consistency, make that world class and also make it easy to stitch together the various ideas that you're brainstorming.
Um, I think I have one last tip for composition. Maybe I'll look for the project to share.
Oh, yeah, here.
Uh.
I can stop the screen sharing and if you want
No,
to.
you can
Okay.
give me a second. I need to find it. Um, but what I did want to show, okay, I think I have it. Okay, yeah, I can share my screen now. Okay, we also kind of published it on our Discord because we also share some tips and tricks that we find on our Discord. So if you're not a member, join. But let me show you a project. Where is it?
Oh, and Bruno,
Okay.
while you're while Neville's pulling it up, you can import pictures, and you can use this. A lot of people are using LTX Studio for pre-visualization of effects. But so yeah, what I would do is pull in pictures that you want and then animate them with LTX Studio, basically.
So what I wanted to show is that I've done this with using composition. This is the Trip to the Moon film that I talked about. It's a very classic, crazy film shot in 1902. And I used composition to take the
Wild.
commercially, you can use that commercially nowadays because it's so old. And then I just used it to analyze it using depth. I used other different methods and I decided that was the best. And then I also changed the style. So you can go here and then just also change the shot style. So I took some references from animations that I've done and I did a 3D cartoon. And then I also described what I said. And then I got like an animated modern kind of take on this 1902, 123 years old film that I was able to animate, which is insane and
I love
lots of
that.
fun. So this is something that you can do. And then like I did that for different shots from the movie like that. You can see also the quality was very bad. And for this, I used lines, for example, because I just wanted to get the composition of the people and the character. And since this is very bad quality, what the algorithm of lines does is that it blurs them and then just gets the exterior lines of everything and it can interpret that into a new image. And I was able to do that and just reimagine this scene happening nowadays with today's technology, which is insane. So yeah, I really encourage you guys to play around with composition. I love that tool.
That's the one I meant to show actually is like I'll do one real quick to let's see, like sometimes people take a really old famous painting and want to like do a relevant recent example of that. So I'll show a few more things. Um, if I have it, let me see if I yeah, okay, I'll do one more. So let's say let me share my screen again. And I will make sure share sound is on as well. Okay, so sharing screen. Like Nevo said, Nevo, I love those examples. I hadn't seen the Moon Project before, which is that's really cool. But let's say that you wanted to pull in like an old master's painting, from the Renaissance, etc. That's one that's really fun to do to kind of call back, like harken back to an old example. So you can take these old paintings and say, Santa in the middle of a table surrounded by his elves. Um, I will do here, I guess, pose, just to pull the lines of the people. So that's a really fun one. Actually, let me make this a little stronger here. And then,
Right, I said I'm gonna bounce off, and it took longer than I expected, but I do have to
yeah,
bounce off now.
sounds
So
good.
bye
Feel-
everyone. You're I
Yeah,
am
feel free
leaving
to
you
jump
in
and
good hands.
I'll wrap it up after. Thanks, Nevo.
See you. Bye
Yeah,
bye.
bye. So yeah, I'll just wrap it up in a little bit. So here, for example, playing around with pose and depth. Pose actually was looking at, I think, just the main character. Depth has been really successful for me overall. And but play around with the different ones to see what you're extracting and if you're getting it right. But I actually really liked these two, depth and lines. So lines, you can tell it's getting everything. It's getting the paintings behind, etc. Depth, it's you can notice how well it handles the depth here. Like if you look at the characters between each other. But I've seen a lot of people take classic scenes and recreate them with something. So definitely play around with that, and then use the strength to really flex what you're getting and to make sure you're getting the right thing. Cool. So we did a lot here. Let me just double check. Okay, so it looks like we got everything from the Q&A. However, Naveau posted in the Discord in the chat here the Discord link. We have some great responses and fun tips and great responses to people's questions there. So definitely ask that. And let us know also, there's a tips and trick channel. Let us know if you have any ideas for subsequent ones. By default, we're just going to keep bringing you new things we've released. There's so much going on. It's always really fun. So we hope to have some really good stuff for you next month. But there's an open channel there if you have anything you want to call it specifically for us to highlight in the next tips and tricks session in about a month. So stay tuned on the Discord channel. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for the comment. I really appreciate the attention. And this will go live on YouTube. So if you want to reference it, we'll be putting these live on YouTube like usual. And remember to look back the last 4 ones. We covered everything, like when we launched LTX and had the new image flux driving the previews. We've created a project from scratch, which was the number 4 one, the last session where we created the dyno project from scratch. A lot of good stuff out there. So yeah, we'll see you on Discord and see you the next one in about a month. Thanks, everyone.